Morning. It's Saturday, April 2nd, and today I am going to spend the day doing my taxes. I have to get it organized because all year I collect important papers and I put them in my folder. And this folder is marked 2021 because that's the year. So I put all kinds of information in that folder that I will need for taxes. It's doctor's bills, it's charities that I've contributed to, and then of course there's my transactions in the stock market and my regular Social Security income and my IRA and all of that stuff. So it's all in this folder, and this folder right now is several inches thick because there's a lot of other crap in there that I've accumulated during this year, this tax season. And this tax season really starts on January 1st and it runs till April 18th this year because April 15th happens to be Good Friday. So we've got a 3-day extension this year. But the interesting thing is that even though the tax season starts on January 1st, the IRS doesn't really collect taxes from you until January 24th. That's when they open for tax season for their collecting of forms. So I never am in a rush because I always end up paying taxes, so I take the maximum amount of time and I'll give all this stuff that I do today, I'll give it to my accountant on Monday or so, or I'll give it to my son who may deliver it to my accountant. He's his accountant also. And that'll be the end of it, and I won't sweat it till I see the forms and see where they worked out, and I'm probably going to have to pay some additional taxes, And the interesting thing is, I have a degree in accounting, but it took me a long time to get that degree. So when I went out and tried to get a job with CPA firms, I was too old. They told me I was too old because I wanted $100 a week because I had a wife and 2 kids at that point. And they wouldn't pay me more than $80 a week, and they told me that they could get any kid out of college and they would work for $80 a week. Sure, they were 22, probably 23. They graduated from college. They got a BBA or whatever it is. It's some kind of accounting degree. And they would work cheaper because they were young and they really didn't have a family to take care of, etc., etc., etc. So I ended up getting a job as a tax auditor for the state of New York. And I would go around in Manhattan. My district was west of Fifth Avenue between Chambers Street or somewhere and 14th Street, some district like that, and I would go around to the places and tax audit. And tax auditing was very interesting in some ways. I never had to be in the home office except for one morning a week because I had to be out in the field. So that gave me a lot of freedom. It's a way I could spend my day and who I could see when, etc. And of course, the clients that I had to see, they really didn't want me to come and look at what they were doing. And I had some interesting things happen, like this is the story about Sam Katz, Sam Katz is very famous. There are many firms that use his name. So I ran into this firm and I was doing this audit and I found there was this employee on the books and his name was Sam Katz, and Sam got $3,000 every quarter. And so when I questioned the owner of the business about Sam Katz, he said, I have to speak to my attorney. So I'll get back to you. Come back tomorrow. I got to speak to my attorney. So I went to my next appointment for the day, and I finish up and I take the train. And when I come back to him the next day, and he says, I can tell you. My attorney said it's okay to talk to you, so I can tell you because you don't squeal. Your department is known for not telling on any other department. Sam Katz is a building inspector. And if I don't fix my building up, Sam Katz is going to give me a citation. And I'm going to have to fix this building, and it's going to cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. So I give Sam Katz $3,000 every quarter. And that's the story. So they go back to the office. I'm talking to my supervisor, and I said, look, I found this guy Sam Katz, and he's a building inspector. A New York City building inspector, and he's getting $3,000 a quarter. What? Because the owner of the business, the guy that's paying him the $3,000, is telling me that we, the tax auditing, will not rat out the building inspector. And my boss says that's correct. Won't squeal on him. But I will tell you how to write this thing up. But anybody who reads it will know that this guy was on the take, but we haven't specifically stated that. And he explains to me this whole convoluted bunch of sentences that he writes, and I don't remember them, but this is like 50 years ago. I don't remember them. But I remember we wrote this thing up and we filed our reports, and Sam Katz continued, or whatever his name really was, continued getting his money, and the building never got inspected. And the bottom line on that thing is I only lasted about 5 months as a tax auditor, because a friend of mine told me about a computer school. And so I went to the computer school it was an 8-week course, and after 6 weeks I was told that I was good enough to get a job. And they were right. Sent out a couple resumes, and Western Electric snatched me up, and I went to work for them. And as they say, the rest is history, because I did very well, and I worked for them. They were in New Jersey at that point in time. It was the factory in New Jersey that I was working at, I guess it wasn't real. It was a wire plant. They used to wrap these huge telephone cables on these big wheels. That's what they did most of my manufacturing, and the rest of it was taking care of some building. They were large buildings, and we used to build the bays that held the telephone wires and everything. And each building had its own unique set of parameters. We didn't manufacture anything. Everything that we did was a one-time shot, and so we didn't make a lot of money. So we were the orphan company in the Western Electric chain. But I did learn a lot about computers at that point in time, and I was able to move on. Decided to buy a house on Long Island, got a job with Publishers Clearinghouse, and the rest is history. And now I'm going back to work on my taxes, because that's my duty. I got to figure this thing out, and I'll have a shitload of paper to go through later on in the day. That's the story for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.